So we're talking today about solving absolute value equations, yes? Think with me for a second about what absolute value equations, the graph, the parent function looks like. What does it look like? A V, right? Absolute value looks like a V. So just a general sketch would look like that, right? So think about if I had an equation, absolute value of something equals 5. Well, remember if you're graphing this to solve, you can graph the absolute value one and then you can graph the number to solve it, right? The number would be a horizontal line, wouldn't it? So how many solutions am I going to get to this equation? 2. How do you know there's 2?
Because you got a point right there and right there.
And right there, right? It crosses the absolute value in 2 places. Well, what if it said the absolute value was 10? Is that still 2? What if it says the absolute value was 25? It's still going to have 2 equations, right? Most of the time when we have absolute value equations, we're going to get 2 solutions. And that's a big deal, and I need you to remember that for me. Can you do that? Okay, so let's start off really basic. And I say to you, the absolute value of x equals 5. Okay, so remember what absolute value is again? What is it? It's a distance, right? It's a distance away from 0. So what is, in this particular problem, what is x allowed to equal? You just told me it's allowed to equal 2 things. Can you tell me what those 2 things are? A 5 and a negative 5. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So this x can either be positive or negative. Is that an okay way to say it? This x can either be a positive number or a negative number. Now, you told me it's 5 or negative 5, and then that's just as quick as dividing both sides by negative 1 to know that x equals negative 5, right? Now, that seems like a little bit like extra, right? Nobody wants to do extra work, right? But this is a place, I'm going to do it a couple times this year, okay? But this is a place where I know where we're going, and I know what's best for you when it comes to stuff like this. And I need you to trust me today. I need you to trust me today that this is going to be worth the little bit extra effort. Because on Monday, it will make things way easier. Can you trust me on that? Okay, so does everybody understand what's happening here? Whatever's inside the absolute value can either be positive, just like whatever it was inside the absolute value bars, or whatever is inside the absolute value could be negative. I'm not actually changing this number over here. It doesn't change. It's 5. What's inside the absolute value is what's changing, either positive or negative. God bless you. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so then we need to get a little bit more difficult, because that's what we do, right? Absolute value of x plus 2 equals 3. So if I have absolute value of x plus 2 equals 3, what is this allowed to equal? Either
Negative 3 or positive.
So, but what I'm talking about, what's inside, it can either be negative or positive, right? So I'm going to rewrite this equation into 2 parts. The first part is going to be whatever it was, I'm leaving it alone. So like that's the positive value. Whatever it was, I'm leaving it alone. Even if this is a negative number and this is a negative number, I pull it straight out because that's what its positive value is. And then I say whatever is inside, what if it was negative? Do you see what I did? I pulled out whatever was inside, but I made the whole thing negative. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have 2 equations because I almost always have 2 possibilities, right? So how do I solve this equation right here? What do I do first? Minus 2, right? Subtract 2 from both sides. Well, what's left on the left-hand side if I subtract 2? X. And what's left on the right-hand side? 1. You okay with that?
Yes.
What about on the second possibility? What do I do first? So I actually have 2 possibilities here. We're going to go with your suggestion first. So if we distribute, are you okay with that? So if I do that, what I get is negative x minus 2 equals 3. Yes?
And then you do plus 2.
Plus 2, all right, I can do that. Plus 2 on both sides. Negative x equals 5. Divide both sides by negative 1. X equals negative 5. Did I do everything right? I did, right? So these should be the right answers? Is there a way to tell? How? Couldn't I just plug them back in? One at a time, right? So what is 1 plus 2? Excellent. I'm proud of you for knowing that. Excellent. What's the absolute value of 3? 3. Does 3 equal 3? Then I know for a fact that that answer is right. What about this one? Negative 5 plus 2.
Wait.
Negative 3.
It would be negative 3. What is the absolute value of negative 3? 3. Right? The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Are you okay with that? Does 3 equal 3? So then I also know that without a doubt, that one is correct. Does that make sense? Okay. You ready for another example? Okay. Let's do absolute value of x plus 5 minus 3 equals 12. Absolute value of x plus 5 minus 3 equals 12. And let's give ourselves a little help here. Okay? If we're going to be doing the same things every time, shouldn't we write ourselves some steps to make sure that we're doing the same thing every time? Okay? Rule number 1, or step number 1. It's going to be the same step of literally every problem that we do all year. Don't panic. Does this look exactly the same as the example I gave you before? And it's harder, right? It has more steps. So do we panic? No, we do not. Okay? Our second step is we need to isolate the absolute value. Now, we didn't really have to mess with that in the first two examples I showed you because the absolute value was already isolated, right? Yes? Okay? But I have to first, in this example, isolate the absolute value before I can do anything. Okay? So what do I have to do to isolate the absolute value? Add 3 to both sides. Good. When I add 3 to both sides, I get absolute value of x plus 5 equals 15. Very good. Is the absolute value isolated? Yes. Now I know there's stuff inside the absolute value, but I don't mess with that until this step. Once the absolute value is isolated, then I wanted to write 2 equations. I want to write it as 2 equations. One where the inside is positive, one where the inside is negative. Okay? So the one where the inside is positive is x plus 5 equals 15. And the one where the inside is negative x plus 5 equals 15. I know that some of you want to change this number to be positive or negative. But is this number in the absolute value? No, it's not the value that changes to positive or negative. It's the stuff that's inside the absolute value that changes to positive or negative. And that's what I'm asking you to trust me about. Okay? Because on Monday, today it really doesn't make a difference. Monday it makes a huge difference. Okay? So now what? What's our next step? So solve each equation. You okay with that being our step? So for this first example, you are correct. I want to subtract 5 from both sides. So x equals 10. And on the second one, you remember how I told you, I said, what do we do here? And then I said, there's actually 2 options, but we're going to go with the ones she suggested, and that's what we did, right? There's actually another option. Do you mind if I show you what it is? You can actually, from here, divide both sides by a -1. Because a negative divided by a negative is what? A positive. So all that's left here is x plus 5. But I didn't mean to write the parentheses, so please ignore those. X plus 5 equals negative 15. And if x plus 5 equals negative 15, can't I subtract 5 now? And get x equals negative 20? Is that it? Are we done?
No, you have to divide by -1.
Oh yeah, I do?
Oh, no, you don't.
Well, it's already just x, right? So it's all the way solved for. But is there one more step? What is it? Yeah. Check your answers. I mean, is it that big of a deal?
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to get the answer right, you're
Yes.
checking and you're going to know it's right. Okay? So 10. 10 plus 5. 15. What's the absolute value of 15?
5.
15. 15 minus 3? Does 12 equal 12?
Yes.
Yes. So I know without a doubt that that is correct. Negative 20 plus 5. Negative 15. What's the absolute value of negative 15? 15. What's 15 minus 3? 12. Does 12 equal 12?
Yes, 12 equals
Without a doubt, I know that's correct.
12. No doubt.
Okay? Got it? All right, I need to show you another example. And I'm going to try to trick you. Remember I told you I'd warn you about that, right? I'm going to try to trick you on this example. And we're not gonna just go easy either. I'm going to put all the things that could possibly be here. You ready? 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 6 plus 9 equals 3. I mean, I could have made it harder. I could have made the numbers bigger, but I thought we'd be okay here. Yes?
Yes.
So let's remember our steps. What do we do first? Don't panic. It is harder than any of the ones we've done so far, but we're not going to panic about it, right? Isolate the absolute value. So I need to get the absolute value all by itself. What do I have to do first to do that? Subtract 9 from both sides. 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 6 equals negative 6. God bless you. Is the absolute value isolated yet? No? What do I have to get rid of? The 2. How do I get rid of it? I do. I divide it. That's exactly right. If I divide both sides by 2, I get the absolute value of 3x minus 6 equals negative 3. What do you want to do now? What do you want to do? 2 equations? Okay, we can do that. What's my first equation? Whatever was inside, I just bring it down, and it equals my answer. Yes? What's my second equation? The negative of whatever was inside equals. What do you want to do now?
Add 6.
Add 6 to both sides. 3x equals 3. And now? Okay. Divide both sides by 3. X equals 1. And now? So divide both sides by negative 1. I'm okay with that. Negative divided by negative is
Positive.
positive, so I just have the 3x minus 6 equals 3.
Now you got add 6.
Add 6.
You get 3x equals 9.
I do get 3x equals 9. Good.
You get x equals 3.
Dividing both sides by 3 gives me x equals 3. Very, very good. Is that it?
Check your answers.
Check my answers. Okay, 1. 3 times 1.
3.
3 minus 6.
Negative 3.
Negative 3. Absolute value of negative 3? 3. 3 times 2. 6 plus 9.
Negative 6 plus 9?
Nope. 6 plus 9 is 15. Does 15 equal 3?
No.
Uh-oh. Did I do anything wrong? Did we do anything wrong? We did not. But that doesn't work. What about this one? 3 times 3.
9.
9 minus 6?
3.
Absolute value of 3?
3.
3 times 2? 6 plus 9.
Oh, is that don't equal?
No, it don't equal 3. Do it.
Why'd you do this?
Well, what did I tell you at the beginning?
It was going to be tricky.
I was going to try to trick you. I did. I meant to, though. Right? I could have asked you different questions along the way where you could see it, but I needed to take you all the way through so you could see what happened. Okay? So here's where I need us to go back to. Right here. When you take the absolute value of a number, when will you ever get an answer that's negative 3 or negative anything? Can't, can you? So once we got to this point right here, what could we have written instead? How many solutions did we get? How many solutions did we get that worked? None. So once you get here, once you recognize that you got an absolute value equaling a negative number, we could stop and not do all this work that I'm covering up and write no solution. Because if I take you back to the very, very, very beginning of our notes right here, and I said, how many solutions could we get? And you said 2. And I said what? Most of the time we get 2. Right? Where's my horizontal line right now? It's down here, isn't it? Okay, it's down here, isn't it? So how many times is it intersecting with my absolute value graph? None. So no solution is possible. Is one solution possible, by the way? Yeah, when you do it, you actually get 2 solutions. They just happen to be exactly the same number. So that is a possibility. Okay? But I want you to write yourself some sort of note right here. Okay? Because here's the deal. Some people think when I say that if you get an answer that's negative, it's automatically wrong. Except we got an answer that was negative here, and we got an answer that was negative here. Is that allowed? Yes, 100% it's allowed. We dealt with negatives in this problem. We dealt with negatives in this problem, and that was fine. It's when you have an absolute value equaling a negative number. That's the problem.
So that's the reason we always check our answers.
Okay?
Sometimes they don't work.
This is going to be no solution. And remember what I said is that if you get to this point right here, you don't have to keep going. From this point, we could have written no solution because we recognized the fact that it was an absolute value equaling a negative number. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Okay? So if you ever get an absolute value and a negative number right here, that should send off, like, red flags.
She's a red flag.
Okay. Any questions about this?
Where's she going?